नमो प्रजापति, नमो धम्मस, नमो इदस, संकसन वासुदेवानम, चंदसुयानम, चतुनम च लोकपालानम. With this invocation given in the inscription of Naneghat, this Mangalacharan, I would like to start my presentation on Naneghat reassessment. First, at the outset, I would like to thank the authorities because of whom I could share this, my views, my study, my research with the scholarly fraternity. That the chairperson of ICHR, then the member, respected chairperson, the respected member secretary, then Professor Dr. Raja Dikshit, who is a member of ICHR, Srimati Josna Arora ma'am, Mr. Nilesh Zado, who is a coordinator of this online session, the researcher, the scholars, the teachers, the students, and all the knowledge seekers. I would like to thank you all before my presentation. Today's topic is about Naneghat, about the Satvahan period, about the trade, and especially it is about some of the interesting or rather newly known facts about Naneghat and about the history of its vicinity. For the viewers outside Deccan, I would like to just introduce with the topic, that is, if we browse through the history of Deccan, especially the ancient history of Deccan, we cannot ignore the Satvahan period. The Satvahans, the mighty imperial Satvahans, who are styled as Andhra in Puranas and who are styled as Satvahanas in the inscriptions and even on the coins also, and even into the literature also. We get some of the references of Satvahans. That means the nomenclature or the name of Satvahans. So this Satvahan period is very interesting enough to get into the ancient history of Maharashtra or the Deccan. We need to study the Satvahan period. The Satvahanas, they are one of such dynasties, one of such rare dynasties who ruled approximately for 350 or 400 years. If we consider the short or the long chronology of the Satvahans, we can very easily get that at least for 350 years they ruled over the extensive parts of Deccan, adjoining parts of Gujarat, sometimes of Rajputana, Madhya Pradesh, present day Madhya Pradesh, some part of Orissa, almost all part of Andhra and Karnataka. So this imperial, huge, mighty dynasty has a lot many sources to discuss about, but we shall be concentrating mainly on the trade aspect of the Satvahans, that the economic history, and through that we shall be talking about the Naneghat. Satvahan period is very interesting enough as regards to the early urbanization in Maharashtra. Besides the urbanization in Maharashtra, we need to take into consideration the huge work of the Buddhist caves in the in Western India, and the magnificent coinage they produced. The Satvahan rulers, they produced a very interesting series of coins weighing right from 0.1 gram up to 30 grams. Such a variety of coins were issued by these Satvahan rulers. They have been mentioned in lot many sources, lot many foreign and Indian sources. They have been mentioned as, even in a Tamil work recently unearthed, actually recently found, Katak Sama, it says that a person who was having 100 elephants was known as Satkarnin. So there is a reference of Satkarnin in the Tamil work also. So with this, there are lot many, in fact, aspects of Satavahan period. Especially Roman trade is one of the important aspects of the Satavahan period. That means the Deccan under the Satvahans. In approximately 45 to 47 AD, a sailor, his name was Hippalus, he invented the monsoon winds, and with that, with the help of those monsoon winds, the Roman or Greek sailors, the ships, they started sailing into the Arabian Sea, and with the help of the harbors, by visiting the harbors, they used to come to India, and with that, Bharuch, the ports like Bharuch, Sopara, Kalyan, Chaul, Rajapur, possibly Mandad, like Kude Mandad. It wasn't a port, but there are several references of foreign visits. So they used to come at the Konkan coastal area, and through the Konkan coastal area, the foreign goods, it was brought into the markets of this Deccan Plateau, that is known as Pathar in the vernacular language, through the passes like Naneghat. There were 5 major passes during the Satavahan period. Among them, Naneghat can be an emperor of them, as the other passes, they were existed. There is no, there are several references or their proofs of being one of the important passes of the Deccan, but still we don't have such a variety of sources related with those passes. That means in Naneghat, in and around Naneghat, we get lot many references of that particular trade. For instance, the cave of Nagnika, the mentioned into the, or allusions into the Zunnar caves. That means a lot many Zunnar caves, the inscriptions given in the Zunnar caves, they speak about the Yavan Chittas of particular area, or Yavan Irila, or Yavan, etc., etc. So these Yavans must be Ionian Greeks, or they must be Roman traders, Roman sailors. They gave magnificent and munificent donations, meritorious donations to the Buddhist monasteries and the Buddhist sanghas there. So because of these all, we have Naneghat, and this area is having a lot many sources relating to the period of Satavahan. There is a huge toll tax spot at the entrance of Naneghat. If we reach to our Naneghat from Zunnar area or from the Desh area, we can have that toll tax spot, so-called toll tax spot. We shall discuss about it later on. And the etymology of the Naneghat also we can discuss it about. So coming to the point, actually Naneghat is one of the important trade routes. It is on one of the important trade routes, and especially the inscription of Nagnika. Actually, that is on both of the walls in the cave, and the label inscriptions given at Naneghat, they are very interesting to study. So with this small introduction, I would like to share my screen with you all to discuss about the history and some of the recent researches about the Naneghat. Well, at the beginning, we shall talk about Naneghat, which is 30 kilometers away from Zunnar, and it is approximately the bottom of the Naneghat part, that that means the Konkan part of it is approximately 70 kilometers away from this Kalyan. That was once upon a time, it was a flourishing port, As we see the geographical features of Kalyan and the Ullas Creek, that is a safe and secure place. And actually, if we go through the details of the geographical features near Kalyan, it is very much evident, and it is very much legible that there was no need of a special jetty or thing like that to for the these ships. They were coming loaded with the foreign goods. So let's talk about this Naneghat. Into next, please. So this is a trade route map of Maharashtra. Actually, in this map, one can get an idea of the ports during the Satvahan period, then the important settlements, passes, and routes, especially the trade routes of the Satvahan period. If we see the Arabian Sea, that means the Arabian route was actually the trade was carried out through these ports, and they were connected with the hinterland with the help of passes like Nana Pass or the Nane Ghat. It is known as Nane Ghat. Sometimes it is styled in the literature as Nana Ghat, Nane Ghat. There are 2-3 names related with this pass. Actually, there were several other passes also, but we don't get such a rich archaeological remains in and around those passes. So Naneghat is one of the interesting and one of the unique passes which is having a huge cave, a huge inscription, and the label inscriptions also. There are several label inscriptions also, and especially the so-called Devakula of Satvahan, or the statue gallery. Especially, I would like to say that it was a statue gallery, as Dr. Shobhana Gokhale has shown it, that, or she was of the opinion that this is not a Devakul, but it was a statue gallery of the Satvahans. Next. So this is a map after Professor Vasant Shinde sir's erudite scholarly written article. It is in the pages of Bulletin of Deccan College Research Institute, and this map is taken from that research. Actually, Deccan College, under the guidance of Professor Vasant Shinde sir and the other scholars, in fact, if I mistake not, Mr. Nilesh Jadhav was also part of that excavation. So there is a exhaustive report on Junnar excavation and the remains in and around Junnar, in which they have given one report of a warehouse, Satvahan warehouse at the bottom of Naneghat. Actually, they have traced the old trade route and how that route was leading towards the Naneghat. It is not a present day route which was approaching towards Naneghat. It was an ancient route, and that has been especially found by these scholars. So this map can give us an idea of the trade route and how it was approaching towards Junnar, which was a big trade center during that time. In fact, we shall discuss this later on, but Junnar was one of such places like Nevasa. It is having, at least we are having references of Junnar right from Chalcolithic period up to the latest, that means the modern period. Professor Lau Gaikwad of Narayangao College has completed his PhD doctoral thesis on the history of the Junnar through the ages. So this Junnar area is very much rich in respect of archaeological remains and all that. We shall be discussing it later on. Next, please. So this is a very interesting photograph of Naneghat. taken from Jivdan Fort, and Mr. Ramesh Kharmale, who is an enthusiast Indologist from that area. Actually, he is in service of Forest Department, but he is working for the preservation and for the welfare of Naneghat, that area, and keenly interested in the research. Here, this photograph is uh, taken from his archive. So we can have a look at the pinnacle. The it is known as Nana's thumb, Nanacha angtha in the vernacular, and this thumb is very much visible from far distance. That means after approaching towards Naneghat from Murbad, from Saralgaon also we can have a look. We can have a this pinnacle. We can have a picture of this pinnacle right from that corner also. So it is visible at least from 30 kilometers, and it was one of the important signs to approach towards the Naneghat. Of course, in the night it wasn't, but in the daytime it was very much easy to approach towards the Naneghat, and so it was visible from far away. So this is a view of Nana's thumb. Next, please. This is another view taken by Mr. Akshay Bule. The courtesy of this photograph is mentioned there. And we can have a look at Nana's thumb from other side. In the background, we can have the beautiful landscape of Jivdan Fort. Its Khada Parsi or Vanarlingi pinnacle is also visible in this picture. It was also one of the signs to identify Naneghat. So in between this pinnacle and this part, in between, there lies the Naneghat Creek. That means the Naneghat Pass. It is not at all a creek, but creek-like thing. So this Naneghat has a peculiar feature. If we approach right from the above side, that means the Zundar side of it, we don't need to climb any mountain, or we don't need to do any sort of physical exertion to get into the Naneghat, and very easily we can be into the Naneghat very easily. So that was an important morphological feature for Naneghat being one of the important routes or one of the important passes for the this trade. Though Darya Ghat is in this side, that means it is into the western part of Jivdan, but it wasn't so much flourishing. We can discuss it in the next slide. Actually, this is a photograph. These are two photographs for the comparison of the present position of Naneghat. Actually, in 1999, under the guidance of Professor Dr. Shobhana Gokhale, the Pune University AMRC, that is Educational Media Research Center, we went into Naneghat and prepared a documentary, a short film. It was, in fact, it has got some prize also. So that was all at the mercy of Dr. Shobhana Gokhale. Because of her erudite expertise, we could achieve that. So this photograph is taken into 1999, and that time we saw some of the traders, that means local traders, petty traders. They were coming from Konkan with the bags of salt. Actually, that was a easy route for them to be at Junnar. Instead of going it from Malshes Ghat, they directly came into came through this Naneghat, Nane Pass, and they were approaching towards Junnars with their these sacks of grains and salt and all that, masalas, etc., etc. These spices. So this is a later period photograph. Actually, now Naneghat is powered with this recent developments, I won't be talking about it. Next, please. So, while going towards Konkan, we can have such a marvelous view, and the whole Konkan is visible. If any student of geography wants to know what exactly the Desh part is and what is Konkan, the Naneghat is the best place, like Malshes Ghat or the Bombay Pune, this Borghat. Like, but Naneghat is more enough to get the idea of what is Konkan and what is Desh and what is the Sahyadri mountain range, geomorphic. If he or she wants to study the geomorphological features of Maharashtra, he must visit Naneghat. So after these small, actually there is a rugged rocks, and actually this is a dike. Actually, it is the dike is easy to carve. So the might be, I don't know who, Nana or the Guna. There is a story of Nana and Guna, that these two brothers, they started digging a pass, but Nana, he completed his work earlier, so Naneghat came into existence, and it was a flourishing trade route, and Guna couldn't complete it, therefore it is unattained. Actually, local people are showing this, but exactly, particularly, nobody knows the antiquity of this thing. Uh, well, so if we approach towards the Konkan part of it, a person sitting here, uh, we get into the cave of Nagnika. Next, please. So this is a interesting view of Naneghat from Konkan area. That means the Nana's thumb is visible from here, and the government has put some boards in the Konkan area. That means it is approaching towards Naneghat, but that is not the uh, old or archaic road approaching towards Naneghat. It is a present day road. Some people are of the opinion that this is the road towards Naneghat, but it is not. It is not an ancient path. It is a modern one. Next, please. So this is a view of Daryaghat, as we have discussed about. Uh, in literature about the Satvahan period, that means a scholarly literature or a popular literature, there is a mention of Daryaghat also. Is a blunt generalization of the Nanaghat, Gunaghat, Daryaghat, etc., etc. In that, it is mistakenly written that Daryaghat was having a huge trade. But looking at a small pathway, it is nearly difficult to believe that it was a very flourishing type of pass like Naneghat. And if we see the road approaching towards the Konkan is huge road, and it is going towards, it is easy also. If we approach towards Konkan, we can get up to the Shingru plateau, and after that the road goes to the proper Konkan area. So this is a picture of Daryaghat, and while we are having field work in this area, actually one of my friends told me that means he was also a scholar, Dr. Sanjay Godbole. He told me that there are uh, tax pots or toll pots at Daryaghat also. So we extensively studied the Daryaghat, but couldn't get any this pot into Daryaghat. But the Adivasis, they warned us about the danger at Daryaghat, that they told us that Daryaghat is having lot many wild boars, in fact, and it is densely, actually, a dense forest area, and it is difficult to approach. Actually, we need to climb to go to the Daryaghat. Right from, even if we are approaching from the Zunnar area, we need to climb to the Daryaghat, and it is not so easily accessible as Naneghat. So, though the Darya Pass was nearer to the Kalyan port or the Kalyan city or that Nagar, still the trade was taken through the Naneghat, and it is very much evident from the inscription and the cave of Nagnika that Daryaghat wasn't under so much having trade. Therefore, they might have carved their statues and their inscription and their cave at the Nane Ghat, not because of the geographical point of view, but also the trade point of view. Nane Ghat was accessible and it was easy to climb for the Sarthavahas to carry the trade. Next. So this is a very interesting panoramic view taken by Mr. Akshay Bule, who is a amateur photographer, enthusiast, and he is a keen student of all these things. Actually, in this photograph, we can have a picture, an idea of the cave of Nagnika. Here, 6 cisterns are visible, and at the top there are 2. That means 8 cisterns are there, and the traders who used to climb the Nane Pass or the Nane Ghat, they used to take some rest in this cave. There are some benches, these stone benches are there, so they used to rest there, and they are having this prohibition of these water cisterns where they were provided to these people. So after getting some rest, they used to approach towards the Zunnar, and while at the cave there was a huge inscription of Nagnika, and the sculpture gallery, that means the idol gallery of the Satvahan rulers. So they must be having a sort of advertisement. The Satvahan rulers must be having advertisement, Nagnika and her whole work regarding the that means the various sacrifices carried by her, and the other things, other deeds, they were actually presented towards the traders. Actually, it was for the traders in a way, like as we can have a look at parallel look at the Ashokan inscriptions. Ashoka mentions that he planted trees for the people on the trade route. Who was traveling on those trade route mainly? Unlike today, the traders, they used to travel through the trade routes, mainly the Sarthavahas and the traders, the foreign traders. And there must be a visit by some Roman or Greek people also, because they are mentioned in the inscriptions of Zunnar, and everywhere they are mentioned. And there are several instances of getting the pieces of amphora. In fact, Dr. Satish Deshmukh has searched one interesting sculpture of Alvestos, of a Eros, Greek god Eros, near Lenedri. That will I shall show you that after a few slides. So this all speaks about the connection with the Roman world, connection with the Greek world, and the seaborne trade, foreign trade of that at that particular time. So this is a spectacular view of Nane Ghat. Next. So even today, how these people are approaching towards Zunnar from Nane Ghat with their bullocks and the sack of grains and salt and all that. My wife, Dr. Preeti Prabhune, has extensively worked on, she has worked in the field of anthropology, but she has extensively worked or had some field work in this Anjanavali and Nane Ghat area, and that research is under publication. So some very interesting ethno-archaeological aspects are found during this field work. So this is one of the important pictures that it shows that how even today people are approaching from Nane Ghat to Zunnar. Next. Isha. So this is in nutshell. This is in nutshell that the inscription of Nane Ghat, how the historiography of the inscription of Nane Ghat. You see, Indraji, in fact, if I mistake not, Colonel Sykes was also there, who visited Naneghat, but Pandit Bhagwanlal Indraji was surely one of the first people, one of the first scholar to comment upon the inscription at Naneghat, the Nagnika's inscription at Naneghat. And through the pages of Journal of the Bombay branch of Royal Asiatic Society, he has published the inscriptions at Naneghat. So after Bhagwanlal Indraji, George Buehler was a scholar to comment upon. Actually, in the pages of Archaeological Survey of Western India, Volume 5, Buehler has extensively written on the Nagnika's inscriptions, and some of his views are still indebatable. Actually, they are accepted by a lot many scholars that they were put by Buehler in 1883. After that, Doyen of Indian Epigraphy, Dr. D.C. Sarkar, he wrote on the inscription of Naneghat, and he has also contributed an important, actually studied the important aspects of the inscription of Nagnika, and he has published his research through his book. Then Dr. V.V. Mirashi, the history and inscriptions of the Satvans and Western Kshatraps, through his monumental work. He has actually, it is published in Marathi also and English also. So Dr. Mirashi has given a wide range of publicity to the inscription of Nagnika through his work, and it was well studied by the scholars also. After that, actually, it was studied right from the period of Bhagwanlal Indraji, but because of the work of Mirashi, it came into light once again. Dr. Shobhana Gokhale, in the Bulletin of Deccan College Research Institute, while taking a review of the research, epigraphical research done by Deccan College, so also in her one of her articles and her one more interesting research book, she has published the inscription of Naneghat, and she has shown it that the inscription is having some figures. Actually, there is a very nice book published by Deccan College, Indian Numerals, by Dr. Shobhana Gokhale, speaking about the Brahmi numerals. But it is her. It was propounded by Dr. Shobhana Gokhale that these Satvan rulers, that means Satkarni and Nagnika, they had a Vajpayee sacrifice also. There are many reference of many sacrifices in the inscription of Nagnika. As we see, right at the beginning, the inscription speaks about the invocation of the various gods. They are mainly of a Vedic nature, and after that there is a small stanza. Much of the part is worn out, but in that stanza there is a mention of the persons who are in the statue gallery of Naneghat. That means Simukh, then Naganika herself, then Satkarni, the first, the great ruler of Satvans, like Simukh. Krishna Satvahan is missing from this Naneghat inscription because of possible rivalry to snatch the rule of the Satkarni. The legitimate rule of his rule was possibly snatched by Krishna Satvahan, who has been styled into the Nashik cave inscription. Sadhavahan Kule Kane Rajani, Nasika Kena Samanena Mahamatrina Lena Karita. He has been styled in that. And even we are having some of the coins of that Saman also. That Shraman is Mahamatya. We are having the coins of Saman. Very rare coins of Saman. And even of the Krishna also. So lion type of coins of Krishna are reported from Nashik area. Extremely rare coins. But we are coins of Krishna. But he is totally missing from the Naneghat statue gallery, and it is evident that he must be missing from inscription also. He is intentionally not mentioned in the inscription. So after that, we get a vivid picture of the various sacrifices performed by Nagnika. Bueller and Dr. V.V. Merashi are of the opinion that some of them, they were during her widowship. And Alice Collett has extensively worked on that through her very interesting research paper, Reimagining the Satvahan Queen Nagnika. Actually, that is published in the pages of Journal of International Association of Buddhist Studies. Very interesting article she has put forth. So in that inscription, we get a reference of two Agnadheya, two Vajapeya, Agnadheya, Gavayamana, Anarambaniya, Bhagal Dasharatra, Aptoryam, Angirasayamana, Gargati Ratra, Angirasati Ratra, Shatati Ratra, etc. etc. Some scholars, they have mentioned that there is a mention of 35 sacrifices, but if we physically count them, the number is 19 to 20. Presently, the number is 19 to 20 type of sacrifices were carried out by Nagnika and her male counterpart, that is Satkarni, the first Satkarni, the great ruler of Satvahans. So after Dr. Shobhana Gokhale, Alice Collett, she has worked on the history of this Nagnika and the inscription of Nagnika. I would like to make a mention of interesting article by a young scholar, Smita Haldar, and that article has been awarded with Dr. G. Devi Memorial Prize by Indian History Congress, revisiting the Nanighat inscription, in which she has tried to relate the word Kumar with the. Actually, she is of the opinion that Kumar wasn't a dynasty only. The Kumar was a position like the Maharathis or the Mahabhoj or the Rathikas, like that, and how she has related it with the findings of the Kumar coins right from Junnar up to the Karad area, and she has definitely put an interesting aspect of the reinterpreting the inscription of Nagnika, and she has put her a different viewpoint through her research. Next. So if we see the remains related with Junnar, actually Junnar is closely related with Naneghat only. In fact, Daryaghat is also approaching towards the, Junnar, but we have spoken about Daryaghat. So if we see, approximately 200 caves are in and around the Junnar site, that means the Junnar area, the Nagar of Junnar, and they are having many inscriptions. There is a mention of Yavans, there is a mention of many laymen, there is a mention of guilds also. Gandhik Shreni is there also, Malakar Shreni is also there. So Gandhik means the persons who were engaged in the business of perfume, Gandhik Shreni, and Malakar, garland maker, and all these people, they have been mentioned into the Junnar inscriptions. Dr. Shobhana Gokhale has cited one very interesting inscription from Junnar that speaks about the Yajna Putra Krami. Actually, a person or she or he performing yajna, sacrifice, they also donated for the Buddhist caves. So that period was definitely surely a harmonious period regarding the religious sects and all that. As we have mentioned earlier, a recent excavation at Junnar, it has yielded many interesting artifacts under the guidance of Professor Vasant Shinde sir and the others. Mr. Sanjay Godbole from Pune and late, actually he is no more, but late Mr. Sanjay Godbole, he has published one paper in the pages of the Traimasik Bharat Itihas Sanshodhak Mandal, and he has claimed that a Chalcolithic stone tool has been unearthed from Junnar. In his article, he has given some other references of the artifacts from Junnar also. So Junnar is having a continuous historical tradition right from the Satvahan period, up to the modern period, and especially during the medieval times, Junnar was very important place as regards the Nizam Shahi, and of course we know about the history of the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Junnar was definitely very important. Khurram, Shahjahan, he was staying for some time at Junnar, and in the Nizam Shahi literature also we get a lot many references of Junnar. The excavation reports remains, in fact, the remains of shells, the coins, other artifacts, they are reported by Deccan College in the report. Junnar is peculiar. We are having a peculiar coinage at Junnar. It is very much famous for one another aspect also, and that is the coinage of Junnar. Dr. Shailen Bhandare, in his monumental work on Satvahan coins and the history of the Satvahans, has put forth a new concept in the field of numismatics, and that is regiospecificity. Actually, it is basically from chemistry, in the field of chemistry, but he has applied that nomenclature to numismatics. And if we see through that, through the lens of that regiospecificity, we can have a peculiar coins of Junnar mint. We can't call it as a mint, but definitely these coins are unearthed only at Junnar, though they are found in the rivers at Khed also, but these coins are mainly coming from the Junnar. In fact, in the Junnar excavation, Dr. Abhijit Dandekar has reported one Junnar type of Nahpan coin also. So the left part of the coin is of Nagnika, is very important. These Nagnika coins are extremely rare and first reported by Chinmulgun. He was a civil servant, and Chinmulgun, he has reported one coin of Nagnika earlier, and he was of the opinion that this coin is a commemorative coin. At the time of Ashwamedh sacrifice, it was performed by Satkarni and Nagnika. So the other, as far as the other reportings are concerned, this is a picture of Eros, a Greek god from Junnar. As we get the idol of Poseidon at Brahmapuri, like that, Mr. Deshmukh, he was from Aurangabad, and Kiran Deshmukh, actually he has searched this Eros, this idol of Eros, small albatross idol of Eros from the Lenyadri area, and this picture is taken after the Cambridge site. Junnar has been mentioned. The earliest legible or traceable evidence of clear-cut evidence of the name of Junnar is in the copper plate of Sindh ruler Aditya Varman. Junnar is mentioned as Junni Nagar in the 965 or 966 AD. AD is copper plate, and it is shown that Junni Nagarav Sthite Srimadaditya Varmaha. So that inscription is also, that copper plate part is also shown here. So this is the oldest known clear-cut reference of Junnar. Prior to that, some of the scholars, they have claimed that, for instance, Dhenu Kakat. In fact, Dr. Harihar Thosar, Lauchli, these all scholars, they have claimed that the Dhenu Kakat was nothing else but it was Junnar. As Junnar is not visible in any inscription, the name of the name Junnar is not visible in any inscription during that time, and such a great flourishing center, besides such a great flourishing center of trade and commerce, there is no mention of Junnar. And in fact, in the inscriptions at Karle, in the inscriptions of other places, even at the Nashik, there is a lot of mentions of Dhenu Kakat. So this Junnar might be Dhenu Kakat. And Dr. Thosar has shown, though later period, but it is of a medieval period, and he is of the opinion, he claims that Junnar was known as Dhenuka Kshetra. But some of the other scholars, they have shown, some of like Dr. Brahmanand Deshpande has shown that Dhenu Kakat was nothing but Dharani Kota. Then Dr. Shrikant Pradhan has shown that, has tried to show both of them. as Dhenukakut was Dahanu in the coastal area. And that means the Dhenukakut is debatable, much debatable thing. Then Omenagar was also a reference given by Ptolemy. So some of the scholars, they are of the opinion that this Omenagar was Zunnar. And Zunnar itself, Jirna Nagar, Junni Nagar, old Nagar. So that means like it is like Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro means the dead of the mound of the dead. So nobody will call his or her Nagar as a mound of dead. So it is of course a name given afterwards, after some interval of that particular. It wasn't known as Haryupiya is known as Harappa in Rigved, but there is no mention of Mohenjo-daro like thing. So Zunnar is like that old city. So what was its original name? It is highly debatable issue, and that needs to be further studied. Next, please. So these are very interesting coins of Zunnar. At the middle of these coins, a very interesting coin, rarest coin of Naganika from my own collection, and I must thank a veteran numismatist, Mr. Bhargave from Nashik. Because of him, I could get this coin. Actually, this coin is shown at the right side. It is shown how it should be placed, because there is a small Vedika or a pedestal-like thing, and this square, in this square, it is written as Naganika. So it should be placed like this. But for the sake of reading, I am placing it like this. Professor Dr. Shailen Bhandare showed me that it should be placed like that. So for the sake of reading, let's see this coin. Actually, in the square, we get an inscription, a legend as Naganikaya. It is of the Naganika. That means the coin is pertains to Naganika. And Siri Satakani is the name given in the outer circle. It is not actually circle, but this legend runs like this. So Siri Sata is visible here, and Kanisa is cut off the flank. So Naganikaya. So this is very interesting and very rare coin from Zunnar area, and the provenance of these coins is only Zunnar. Not a single coin is reported out of Zunnar vicinity that for say it is unearthed from Kolhapur or any other area, or there even neither in not at a single place. Always it is found in the through the Zarekaris of Zunnar. So besides Naganika's coins, this is very interesting series of Zunnar coins. These are typically known as Zunnar Satvahan coins. And on this coin, we can have a look at a maned lion. His mane is shown with dots, and a 3-arched hill, that is Chaitya, is shown in between his two legs. And the legend runs Siri Satavahanas, Siri Satakanis, and here we can get Siri Pulumavis. So these rulers. One more interesting coin in this series is of Siva Satkarni. So the coin shown in between is very important in historical aspect. Nahapan Kshatrap was, we don't know of under whose lordship Nahapan was working, but he was having a struggle with the Satvahans, and this Zunnar and Karle area was a bone of contention in between the Satvahans and the Kshatrats. Again, I would like to refer to Dr. Shailen Bhandare. Through his very interesting article, he has propounded very interesting these new findings about the Satvahans and this struggle, this Zunnar struggle. Actually, he has shown that in the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, there is a reference of Elder Sargonus, that is the Elder Satkarni. So who was he? And we generally know from the sources of Nashik inscriptions, that means the Nashik inscription, the inscription of Gautami Balashri at the time of Vasishtiputra. She is saying that her son Gautami Putra Satkarni was a Khakaratha Vasa Niravasisa Karam. who has completely destroyed the clan of the Kshatrats. So Gautamiputra was given the credit of uprooting totally the dynasty of Kshatrats. In fact, there was no trace of Kshatrats. Prior to that, when Nahpan attacked this Deccan plateau, this Deccan area, earlier we are having the inscription. We presently we don't have a inscription directed directly by the Nahpan. We are having inscriptions of his son-in-law Ushavadat, and the Ushavadat is saying that Rajneha Kshatratasya Kshatrapasya Nahpanasya Jamatra Dinika Putrena Ushavadatena. So this he's styling Nahpan or mentioning Nahpan, referring Nahpan only with the Rajneha Kshatratasya Kshatrapasya. He was of the Kshatrat clan and he was a Kshatrap only, and the Samvatsar or the specific date is 45. At Junnar, in the Manmodi or Manmukut caves, we get an inscription of the Mahamatya of Junnar, and in that inscription, Junnar, this Nahpan is mentioned as Mahakshatrapas, Swami Mahakshatrap Nahpan. So, and the date of that particular inscription is 46. So, it is evident that within 45 to 46, 1 year, Nahpan was having some tremendous interesting victory over the Satvahans, and that might be possibly winning over the area of Junnar up to Karle, because the inscriptions of Ushavadat are at the Karle caves also, and there is a mention of Mitra Devanaka, his son, who is ignored by a lot many scholars. Why I don't know, but Mitra Devanaka was his son. This is Ushavadat's son. He must be also engaged in that battle. So Nahpan issued coins in the same fabric at Junnar, and is he mentioning himself as Mahakatapas Nahpanas, Mahakshatrap Nahpan, and his the royal insignia of the Kshatrats are shown on the reverse of the coin. So what made Nahpan calling himself as Mahakshatrap? There was a need of some victory, some special work to be a Mahakshatrap from Kshatrap. So this is a numismatic evidence, and the epigraphical evidence are also corroborative to this all. So in this series, we can have the coins of Pulumavi also, and after this is a eroded coin. Actually, it is not a good picture, but Vasitiputasa Isimulus. Actually, Isimula is mentioned in an inscription at Junnar. It was taken into light by Professor P.V. Radhakrishnan through his research, and Mr. P.D. Tsumble of Nashik. So these Vasitiputta Isimulus, Kumaras Isimulus, these coins are also in the series of Junnar coins. So Junnar was an important trade center having a mint of the Satvahans, a regio-specific mint of the Satvahans. As we are getting coins of Nevasa Python series, we are getting coins of Nasik series, we are getting coins of Bhokardan series, we are even getting coins of Kanagana Halli series, that Sannati and that area. We are getting coins of Daunad area series. Like that, likewise, we are getting coins of Junnar, and they are reported only from Junnar. That is the main point into it is taken. It should be taken into consideration. Next. So after these coins, let's come about a very interesting thing, and that is a pot for toll tax. If we approach from the Pune side or the Junnar side or the Ghadgar side, we get a sight of view of one interesting stone pot, huge stone pot at the entrance of Naneghat. In the popular writing, even in the scholarly writing, in the research papers, it has been said that this was a pot for toll tax, and through the flourishing trade to the Naneghat area. If we see the Maratha period parallel of that, there was a Thalmod and Tharbharit type of taxes. Thalmod means when the goods was taken at the sthal, at that particular place, it was put down. So Thalmod, and Tharbharit means it was approaching. any pass, or it was time the pass. So in the popular writing, in the scholarly writing, and even in the minds of the people, it is taken that this part is of toll. Some of the scholars, they have taken the etymology of Nani Ghat as the ghat of coins. That means the pass of coins. Because of this flourishing trade and this stone pot, it was known as Nani Ghat. This is very romantic idea, and one scholar is also of the opinion that the goddess Nana was on the coins of that time, and through this pass there was a flourishing trade and a huge collection of coins having the picture of Nana, of the Nani, that means of the Nani, so it was known as Nani Ghat. So like that, I can show you the proofs of such research. So well, now let's have a scrutiny of this so-called pot for toll tax. Is it really a pot for toll? As we call it in Marathi as Zakatisa Ranjan, is it of a tax, toll tax? No. Now let's talk about it. This huge pot is of 5 feet. It is 5 feet tall, first of all. Its circumference is 165 inches, that is approximately 420 centimeters. Its thickness is 6 inches. Such a huge pot, uh, is it possible to collect coins of any period into that pot? It is difficult to accept. For say, the Karsharpana coins, that means the PMCs, Karsharpanas have been mentioned in the inscription of Prasarpak and Karsarpan are in the inscription of Nagnika also. So whether they are of silver or any other metal, for lead it is strictly impossible to get into that pot, because it will of no use. It will be definitely it will remain as a broken coin. If we put a lead coin into that pot having 5 feet tall, it is having a, so it is not possible at all to bear with that pressure. Then 14 coins, the Satwan coins are of 14 lead and silver also. We have portrait coins of Satwans, and the other coins, contemporary coins. If we browse through the collections of or the study of contemporary coins, it is highly impossible to collect a toll tax into that particular pot of toll tax. Actually, there is no system of security, and there is no system of getting it from the bottom of that particular pot. And one more another interesting point to be noted, that was that revenue collected only in form of tax or cash, not in fact during the medieval period, Nakt and Ainjansi were the parallels for the collection of this zakat. That means Nakt means cash and Ainjansi means it was in kind. Or if somebody wants to pay into the kind, he was allowed to do that. Malik Ambar was the first person in Maharashtra, that ruler, who started mainly in cash. But during the time of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, nobody was forbidden if he or she wishes to pay the taxes in the form of kind. Nobody was forbidden. So Shivaji Maharaj was also collecting in both Nakt and Ainjansi. So it is difficult to believe that this pot was for the tax collection or the revenue collection. Next, please. So this is a view of a pot. Here you can have a look at this pot. This is huge pot. This is the presenter of this presentation is standing as to show the human scale. This is a water I saw in that pot. It is actually it was filled with water, and you see these are the lead coins of Satvahans, and it is highly impossible to collect such coins in this 5 feet tall pot. And it was very difficult, that if we consider that there were 100 transaction of 100 units during a daytime, and for say 1000 coins they used to collect in a daytime. It is highly difficult. It will take at least 2 months to fill the pot completely. So it is highly impossible that this was a toll tax. Next, please. So now one more thing related with the pot story, that is the etymology of the word Naneghat. Naneghat has been styled as Nanaghat, Naneghat, etc. etc. Ptolemy, in his writing, he is mentioning Nanguna river. Nanguna river, there is no such river in the vicinity of Junnar. There is only one river, that is Kukdi, and possibly was it known as Nanguna? That should be searched. Etymologically, Nane has nothing to do with the coins. And the one more romantic idea came into existence, and it is related with the toll pot and with the name of the Naneghat, and that is, it is after the coins. It was a pass of coins due to heavy traffic, due to heavy trade, and because of that there was a huge collection of coins, and therefore this pass was known as Naneghat, Nana Pass. So it is not possible to accept this view. Why? Because when we had some field work in this area from the Malshes Ghat up to the Lonavala area, it is observed that this area is very much having a huge number of vegetation of trees or bushes known as Nana or Nani. And if we see the mention of Nane Mawal, there were 12 Mawals during the time of Chhatrapati Shivaji. So Nane Mawal has nothing to do with the coins. As Nane Mawal, Nane Mawal used to start after the Pawan Mawal, that is from the Lonavala area up to Bhima Shankar. There is a famous trek, Lonavala Bhima Shankar. This whole area, right from Lonavala up to the backside of the Karla caves, up to the present day Naneghat, even up to the Malshes Ghat, we get a lot many trees of this bush or tree like Nane or Nana. So it has nothing to do with coins. It is etymologically it came after the these trees at this place. Let's have a look at the proofs of it in the next slide. Next, please. So kindly the earlier one. So the Bombay flora, a short description this of the indigenous plants especially. This is very interesting, a book written in 1861. As everybody is familiar with the Cook's, the flora of the Bombay Presidency, it is in a way a supplement to that, and it was published by Nicholas Dalzell and Alexander Gibbs. In this book, they are giving a specific species of a tree known as Nana, N-A-N-A. Tuesday, you can have a look at it. It is a sort of Jatropha, and it is at the last, he is saying that stony places near Pune, and its native name is Kirkudi, etc., etc. And all the description of that particular plant is given in this book. In the contemporary, many books we get the reference of this. Even the local people, they also know the plants of this Nana tree. Next, please. Same like the earlier book, The Forest Flora of the Bombay Presidency and Sindh. This Talbot, he has given one more reference about, very interesting reference about this Nane plant. Next, please. So in this same species has been described in 2A, 2.1, and he's saying that hills near Pune on dry ground they are generally found. And the very interesting remark: the only really indigenous species of Jatropha in the Western Peninsula is this tree. So it is our claim, or it is a hypothetical claim, that this Nane Ghat, Nane Mawal, and Nane area has nothing to do with the coins. It is uh, after only these trees, lot many these mountains and places. They are lot many times they are named after these natural things. So Nane has nothing to, though it is a romantic idea, though it is very interesting. It is very nostalgic to listen to it, but it is with the proof I would like to put forth that Nane Ghat has nothing to do with the coins. The pot has nothing to do with the toll tax, and it is of definitely not of the Satvahan period. And besides this, I would like to say that the Nane Ghat is after the plant Nana or Nani. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation on Nane Ghat. Actually, this is a part of my study. The another, in fact, the later part of it should be on the inscription, especially the inscription and the reading of the inscription with the help of old facsimiles of the inscription of Nagnika, that will be some at some another instance we can have a discussion on it. So with this, I would like to stop my presentation, and I once again thank ICHR for giving me this nice opportunity. And especially I would like to thank Mr. Nilesh Zadav for his patience, and he is meticulously, with a kind heart, doing all these things. Because of him, I could present this presentation. I could effectively after we are with you. So with these words, I thank you all for your patience, hearing and listening towards my lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you.